In this video, we're going to be learning how you can transform the perspective and crop of your images in Adobe Photoshop using the Perspective Crop tool. Great, so as you can see, I have Photoshop open at the moment, and hopefully you've also got Photoshop open next to you so you can follow along with the tutorial. So what we're going to be achieving in this video today is, as you can see, I've currently got an image open in Photoshop, which is an image of a picture frame, which has a drawing in the middle. Now, in some cases, we might actually want to isolate the drawing in the middle by cropping out the rest of our image and also fixing the perspective so we're actually facing it straight on. And basically, Photoshop has a very useful tool which allows us to achieve exactly this. So to use the tool, it only works on particular layer types. So as you can see at the moment, my image is a smart object. And the Perspective Crop tool does unfortunately not work on smart objects. So in order to change this, what I've got to do is actually change my smart object layer to a rasterized layer. So in order to do this, what I'm going to do is go to the layers panel on the right hand side, then go down and find my layer, right click using my right mouse key. And then as you can see, it says here rasterized layer. And I'm just going to make sure I press on that. And as you can see, it's now got rid of the smart object. This does mean that any of the work that you had achieved within the smart object has now been lost. So this is a destructive process and you can't actually go back and edit this later. So this is something you have to be aware of when you do use the Perspective Crop tool. So in order to find the Perspective Crop tool, what we're going to do is go to the left-hand toolbar. And when we normally have the crop tool, if you just hold down your left mouse key, you'll see a certain amount of options. Just ignore the new box that's appeared around our image. This is for the crop tool, but we're going to be using the Perspective Crop tool. So as you can see, the second option in the drop down is the Perspective Crop tool. And on the right hand side, there's the shortcut, which is C. So anytime you press C on your keyboard, both for Windows and Mac, it will directly take you to either of these tools. And you've just got to make sure you navigate through to the Perspective Crop tool. So with that selected, as you can see, that graphic has now disappeared. So what we've got is a cursor with a plus symbol and a small box with 4 dots on the right hand side of it. Now what we have to do in order to use the Perspective Crop tool is actually draw a box around our subject. In other words, create a plane that Photoshop can then transform into a different perspective. So as you can see, this is quite a nice and easy image because we've already got a box around our subject. But in some cases, you might not have a box like this around your subject, which makes it easy, and therefore you'll have to do it slightly by eye. So what I'm going to do is just go to the top left-hand corner and just select once using my left mouse key. And as you can see, we've now created a dot, and anywhere I move my cursor, a new dot will appear with a line connecting the two. So in order to continue around my subject, I'm going to move to the top right-hand corner. And once I'm happy the point is aligned to the top right-hand corner of my subject, I'll just move it down. And as you can see, it now starts to create a box. So I'm going to go to the bottom right, press once there, and then I'm going to complete my plane. So as you can see, this grid kind of shows you how Photoshop is calculating the plane at the moment. So it's trying to guess what the 3D space is like in our image. So if I give it the information that the new dot was here, it's going to calculate that the plane looks like this. But if I do actually complete it properly, as you can see, it now knows that the plane is in this position. So if I just press there in the bottom left-hand corner, it now has made a selection for us. Now, as you can see, all of the space around the outside of our box has gone slightly gray. And this is basically Photoshop telling us that this information will be lost if we go ahead with this crop. Furthermore, in some cases, you might not want to see the grid itself. So if you don't want to see the grid, just go to the top here. And as you can see, there's an option that says show grid. Just press on the tick and it will remove it. I actually find it more helpful with the grid, so I'm just going to leave it there. So once we're happy with our crop and just make sure your plane is aligned correctly according to your image, all you have to do is press on the tick or press enter on your keyboard. And as you can see, Photoshop has now created a crop of our selection and it's also transformed the perspective. So we're now looking directly at it. But once again, just to remind you, we have now lost this information on the outside and it's not recoverable. So if you do go ahead and make further changes after this, this information will be lost. So it's something you have to be aware of. Perhaps you want to duplicate the layer beforehand, so you've always got a spare copy of it. As you can see, it's also actually changed the image dimensions themselves. So that's something you also have to be aware of. So those were the basics of how you use the Perspective Crop tool in Adobe Photoshop. Do remember to leave a like on the video if you enjoyed the content, and do remember to subscribe to the channel to make sure you never miss a new Photoshop tutorial.